Welcome to the Intellectual Freedom Podcast. I'm Dr. David Hopkins, humanities professor. Welcome, new listeners. Welcome back, loyal followers of the show. I appreciate each and every one of you. A special shout out, as usual, to a couple places. Oklahoma City, I see you out there listening. And even a small town called Boone, Iowa. Now, I was born and raised in Iowa, but I don't know a whole lot about Boone. But I see you listening in from there, and I thank you as well. Oh, just one more shout out. Saskatchewan in Canada. Wow. I have many of you listening in from there, which is so interesting. I actually was up in Canada in February of this year in Ottawa. I had a great time. Saw Parliament, amazing downtown area. Food was amazing. People were amazing in Canada. Living in Florida, I could have done without the cold and the snow, but nowhere's perfect, right? But thank you, Saskatchewan, for listening in. I appreciate you. But now today, I'm going to stray a bit off the wisdom literature analysis that we've been diligently studying and talking about for, oh my goodness, probably the last 12 weeks in a row or so. Yes, at least 12 weeks. We've been marching from prehistory. We've made it all the way to the medieval time period, and I promise we're going to continue with it. But I do value feedback, and some of the feedback I get is to invest more time talking about current real-world events and applying critical thinking and the same wisdom literature knowledge or thought processes to what's going on like right now in society. So, hey, let's do that for a bit today because, well, we're not on any schedule to knock out the entire wisdom literature book that we're reading through right now. So let's just veer off the path for the day. As I do stay as best I can tuned into the goings on in the world, I think one of the biggest and the most significant news stories right now is TikTok. And of course, the glaring question being bantered around in Congress in the United States, and for that matter, in many places around the world, is this: should the United States of America, or insert any country you want, ban TikTok? My guess is you have an opinion on this already. And it may be a very deeply informed opinion because you're well connected and very interested in technology issues or politics. Or it may be just your own initial perceptions of this app, good or bad, or formed by whatever news sources you just happen to catch a short news story or a video clip on. Now, as usual in this podcast, I'm not interested at all in swaying your opinion one way or the other. You are plenty smart enough to formulate your own decisions, but as usual in the Intellectual Freedom Podcast, our goal is simply this: present and encourage an open-minded dialogue, an analysis, a review of a topic in a way that can give you a full appreciation and understanding of any issue we talk about, and hopefully then arrive at conclusions or make changes in your own life. That's really what we're all about here. So the fact is, almost nothing in life is binary, black or white, right or wrong. I mean, life is complex. Life is nuanced. Life is a series of often sophisticated and multifaceted decisions that have both pros and cons. You have been making these types of decisions your entire life, and this issue with TikTok is no simpleton topic. So I ask, before you arrive at your own final conclusions on TikTok, I ask you to suspend just momentarily your own feelings and let's dissect. That word's way too nice. Let's rip apart the question of TikTok and whether or not it needs to be removed from the cultural landscape altogether. As we get going, one thing wise thinkers, intellectual minds, critical thinkers are very good at is a concept called choice bracketing. And most of us, well, myself included, often fail to utilize this very effective tool in decision making. I challenge you to use it today as we cover TikTok and making your own personal decision on whether or not it should be banned or not. So choice bracketing, nothing more than it promotes this idea that we really need to be aware of the consequences of our choices before we make them, and need to be careful to understand the big picture rather than our choice in some vacuumed isolation. Since little choices that we make all the time, they have a cumulative effect, and they interact with other choices that we will make in the future. Stay with me here. Just stay with me. If and when we think about banning a social media platform almost 40% of Americans use, and that's like 140 million people, it's a big deal. Even if you hate TikTok, stupid dance videos, or dumb tricks and dislike the app completely, because we have a lot of big tech, mega media platforms, and what choice we make about TikTok could theoretically happen again to another media, or change the landscape of how the ban is written and implemented if we begin down the road of banning and banning and banning, or letting go and letting go and letting go. I mean, it can impact the future in bigger ways than just one instance or one company. So we need to be cognizant, if we're wise, of the road that we take with TikTok and big media, and our government and the law that they actually write to get rid of it. As no matter what happens with TikTok, it is almost certainty that this won't be the last time that we run into a big media platform wielding immense social influence. I mean, it goes on already. So, choice bracketing involves grouping individual choices into sets and considering the effect of each choice in the set on the others to help us better understand their consequences. Now, bracketing sometimes is really narrow when it's just a very few choices that we have to make, and broad when we have many choices. For example, an army general who uses narrow bracketing, he might focus so intensely on winning the next battle that it costs him the war as a whole. Whereas a general who uses broad bracketing may focus on winning the war, even if it means taking a few losses in a few battles. I think you get the idea. So it stands to reason that when we look at TikTok and whether to ban or censure or force some sort of change, broad bracketing is probably better, because the reality is big tech is not going away. Social media is not going away. And broad bracketing allows us to take in more information into account. As really, are we only truly talking about TikTok abusing data and security? Or is the same possibility of abuse out there for all social media? Heck, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc. I mean, I don't think any of these big medias have that great of a track record overall. So when we look at big tech social media, it would stand to reason we probably need to analyze very, very carefully the entire landscape, not some narrow view because it's TikTok and China. Although that is very important, and that's why we're even having the conversation to begin with. But I mean, let's not just, I guess you could say, just throw away narrow bracketing, because narrow bracketing works just fine on simple issues, and or when we're considering only a single decision, or when it's necessary to choose quickly under pressure, or when considering too many options leads to overload and paralysis. Narrow bracketing can apply to many everyday decisions, such as whether and how to talk to someone, the words you choose, when you're speaking to someone. Choosing which task at work to take on next. You kind of keep that a pretty narrow bracket. Or whether or not how to engage in a healthy behavior or not. But I think TikTok is sufficiently complex that we're going to best understand the pros and the cons of a TikTok ban through broad bracketing. And that's what we're going to use today, as this issue isn't simple, nor is it easy. This is the route that we have to focus today. And I hope at the end of this episode, you have a deeper and a broader context in your consideration and decision making about TikTok and what it would actually take in legislation to effectively deal with the issues that are causing the problem without simultaneously creating some cascade of unintended consequences, which right now is a very real threat in the legislation that's on the table. But first, we need to define, in case you have been living under a rock or, well, been more than a little disconnected from society and culture, who in the world is TikTok? So, TikTok, it's just a social media app that allows users to create and share short videos. They're typically set to music or other audio clips. It was launched all the way back, actually, in 2016 by the Chinese company ByteDance, and has steadily become wildly popular around the world, particularly among the younger users and Gen Z. TikTok's video creation tools and their editing features, really, just simply, they allow users to add filters and effects and other elements to their videos, where a lot of the humor and fun comes into play. They're very easy to use. And these videos then are shared on the app or on other social media platforms. But here's the kicker. The app has been the subject of intense controversy due to the concerns over data privacy and security. But it still remains one of the most popular social media apps globally. So let's first, you and I, be pro-democracy, pro-capitalism, and give some reason why TikTok should not be banned outright in the United States or anywhere else that holds democratic and capitalistic ideals, or, well, at least claims to hold them. And, I've been reading and I've heard a few podcasts on this myself. So here's kind of a rundown summary of why we should not ban TikTok. Number one, freedom of speech. This is important in America. It is embedded into our Constitution. In a democratic society, people have the right to express themselves freely, whether we like what they say or not sometimes. And TikTok provides this platform for people to create and share content that reflects their thoughts and ideas and opinions. The internet blew up the gatekeepers of traditional media and put power in the hands of the people to express themselves. And this is for better or worse. Banning TikTok, those that would not want to ban, say this would infringe on this fundamental right and limit people's ability to express themselves. We really need to pay attention to that idea. Number two, creativity and innovation. TikTok has emerged as this platform that enables individuals to showcase creativity and innovation. There is some real dynamic, educational, and of course entertaining content out there. You might not like it all or even a fraction of it, but hey, the fact is there is some crazy creativity going on every second of every day on this app. Banning TikTok would deprive people of this outlet to express their talents and limit the growth of this emerging creative industry. I don't know, if I put on my don't ban TikTok hat, I can hardly think of a time in the course of human history where stifling innovation and creativity was a good thing. the power of humanity, the real essence of being human, is being creative and innovating. We've done it since we've been human. Now, I do have to admit, a lot of TikTok, to me, seems like superfluous silliness. But then again, I'm old, or at least getting old, or older than the average TikTok user. But still, let's give the devil its due. Creativity is going on this app at a high level, and it's an outlet for expression. And when we take it away from people, generally speaking, on the whole, this isn't a good idea. Number 3, economic opportunities. TikTok is providing a platform for these creators and businesses to even reach a wider audience than they had ever done before, and promoting economic opportunities for both. Banning TikTok would hinder the ability of creators and businesses to reach their target audiences and potentially even harm the economy. I mean, I think in this hyper-competitive and hyper-dynamic tech world, this may be one of the weaker arguments because there's so many outlets out there, as it would seem on the surface of things. But the immediate benefactors, it would appear, of a banned TikTok would probably be Meta with Facebook and its version of TikTok Reels. And they're not, are they not big enough already? But still, the economic opportunities that TikTok provides are real and they're out there. And when you reduce the field of participants and the options for people to use different medias, it tends to give even more power to those companies already in place that already have a dominant share of the market. International relations would be the 4th one, and this is maybe the toughest one. TikTok, like it or not, has a massive global audience, and banning it would negatively impact international relations, especially, of course, with China, where this app originated. Banning TikTok, I mean, let's face it, would surely worsen relations with China. And ultimately, would they fire back and ban certain American companies or limit company access to their markets? Just today, China announces they were going to have a look at Micron for security concerns. But you think of the companies the American companies, Tesla, Apple, Starbucks, Nike, Microsoft, and we go on and on. Whether we like it or not, the choice was made to do business with China again about 50 years or so ago. And whether we should unwind or limit exposure to China is a very large issue. But banning TikTok would surely throw gas on the fire of an already strained relationship and could have very broad global consequences if these two superpowers, the United States and China, collide head-to-head economically, let alone if things escalate so bad it would be militarily. I mean, I'm not saying that would happen, but international relations would be strained dramatically, it would seem, by outright banning TikTok. And is that a battle that we need to fight today? So there's 4 core reasons to be cautious or wary about banning TikTok. But let's just for one moment flip to the other side. Then we'll dissect the actual bill Congress put together to ban TikTok. And when I first gained exposure to that bill, I was flabbergasted at what I saw. But more on that later. And it seems to be logical and effective what our friends in Washington, D.C. put together. And I do use that term friends in D.C. cynically. If you've listened to me at all, you know I'm not a fan of either party. But hey, we will analyze what's on the table today. But undoubtedly, TikTok, it does have some major problems that have put them in the crosshairs of the federal government. So let me start with some of the reasons for the ban of TikTok and why it should happen that are very heavily present on their platform. But at the same time, let's be real. There are serious problems on every single platform equally. It's just that TikTok is so large, its algorithms so good, and its interfaces of such quality that it seems to be heightening many of the problems further. And then we'll get to the kicker, the most significant reason that TikTok, of all social media, has a big red target on its back. Number one, reason to ban TikTok. It has a lot, and I mean a lot, of inappropriate content. TikTok has been brutally criticized for hosting inappropriate, potentially harmful content, including sexual content, promoting dangerous and stupid challenges or behavior. And their screening and removing of this content has been far from stellar, and many say pathetically inadequate. The cynic may say this is not unintentional, but rather it's an intentional oversight because some of that inappropriate content extremely boosts usage. That's debatable at this time. The company flat out denies it, but hey, that's a reality. Number two, TikTok has been accused of facilitating cyberbullying and harassment, particularly among young users, because the site in general has a lot of young users. It seems rife with this problem. Number three, TikTok addiction. It is a real thing. Some argue that TikTok's algorithmic content and its recommendations, which are so finely tuned, can be addictive, contribute to the erosion of attention span, particularly, again, among our youngest users. Their algorithms appear to be vastly superior to other social media apps, and it's so easy to use. The ability to keep people glued to TikTok for long swaths of time can pose a big problem. Yet, I mean, none of these are unique, right, to TikTok. We've heard the criticisms for years now. Other apps have cyberbullying. Other apps have addictive algorithms. And oh my goodness, you can go on any social media app and find plenty of inappropriate content. You know, the number one search term type of content, just to go off on a little tangent, on the entire internet, the number one is pornography. Pornography. Oh, and a fun fact, just for the heck of it, the number two most searched topic is money. So sex and money, home of the internet. But anyway, I mean, reasons 1 through 3 are systemic. They're problems that are systemic in social media. And if it was just this problem, I doubt the government would pay much attention to them, or any more attention than they pay to the other social medias, except for reason number 4. And this is the biggest issue facing TikTok. And this would probably be the reason that would sway you one way towards banning TikTok, if that's your inclination, and that's national security concerns. Some governments, and maybe most prominently the United States of America, have raised concerns about TikTok's Chinese ownership. And they believe that the app could be used to collect very sensitive personal data of citizens and could potentially threaten national security. I mean, that's a huge claim. Many are arguing that, in fact, this has already happened and isn't theoretical at all, that they're sharing this data. Now, you may say, okay, that sounds bad, but what does it actually mean that TikTok collects very personal data, and how is that different from other apps? And how does this breach over into quote unquote national security concern that's bigger than anything else online? So here's the big deal. Again, stemming from its ownership, Chinese companies, they operate differently in communist China than in any democracy in the world. TikTok is Chinese owned, and it has the potential for all the user data to be accessed by the Chinese government whenever the government wants the data. It isn't an option for the company. It's a requirement to give it over. You may hear in the news sometimes where the FBI or the feds are trying to want to crack an iPhone, and Apple says, no, we're not going to give you that data. In communist China, there is not an option. You will hand over data if the Chinese government wants it. So TikTok, which is owned by ByteDance, is subject to these data laws that require companies to cooperate with the government's request for information. And where does all this come from? Well, it's all public knowledge, and if you want to access it and see it, the primary Chinese law that allows the government to access any company's data at any time it deems necessary is the Chinese National Intelligence Law of 2017. And this law requires organizations and citizens to cooperate with Chinese intelligence agencies when they are requested to do so. It goes on to state that Chinese intelligence agencies can request and obtain information from organizations and individuals, including the data stored overseas. Let me say that again, including data stored overseas, which would be, of course, the ByteDance operations for TikTok here in North America, for the purpose of national security. If you want the simple pro-ban argument, this is a big deal. Of course, the concern is that the Chinese government could potentially request that data, take TikTok's user data, and spy on or influence users, particularly those in the United States and other countries where TikTok is popular. The ability to manipulate and influence opinion is incredibly significant, as we are seeing more and more of it in every election cycle. Let me just give you one example. And this created a firestorm of backlash, and ByteDance ultimately did the oops, my bad apology that big tech loves to do when they screw up. Oops, my bad. We didn't mean it. So sorry. So sorry. But let me give you one of their examples of how TikTok and ByteDance and potentially the Chinese government could manipulate opinion. I believe it was all the way back in 2021, and there was a poll posted onto TikTok, which is one of the things you can do. Users can post polls, and they ask users to answer the question, quote, what country do you live in? Seems like a very innocuous question, and it included a list of options, including Taiwan. And those of you that don't know, Taiwan is a problem. Taiwan is a big problem because the Chinese believe that's one of their territories, one of their provinces, and Taiwan says, no, we're not. We're a sovereign, independent country, and this is a hot spot. A lot of our microchips produced in Taiwan. I mean, it is a big deal. But anyway, so this poll asks people what country you live in. So when this poll goes out, some of the users noticed that when they selected Taiwan as their country, the app's response was, quote, Taiwan, comma, province of China, which is a term that the Chinese government uses to assert its claim over Taiwan as part of its territory. And here we are, TikTok, North America, all of a sudden we're getting this Chinese government message on Taiwan. So the provincial language used by the Chinese government in its propaganda speeches when it's threatening the sovereignty of Taiwan, which they do all the time. I mean, this sparked immense outrage, of course, among the Taiwanese, as well as supporters of Taiwan's independence, and they argue that Taiwan is a sovereign country and should not be labeled a part of China. I mean, China has been asserting and continues to assert that they are the owners of Taiwan and that they will take it back. This is not conjecture. This is fact based on the rhetoric that's been coming out of China now for years and years. Now, was this just a simple oversight on the part of ByteDance and TikTok, as they claimed? Or was this an attempt at grooming, especially younger generations in North America, in Europe, everywhere else, that Taiwan is a province of China? I mean, this is a psychological thing that happens. Politicians are famous for it. Taiwan is a province of China. Taiwan is a province of China. Taiwan is a province of China. And whether it's true or not, if you keep repeating it over and over and over and over again, well, all of a sudden it must be true because I hear it all the time. I mean, you can decide on your own if really TikTok just made a big mistake there or if it was intentional. But in the end, TikTok had to bow to pressure. They apologized for disrespecting Taiwan's sovereignty. And they ultimately changed the poll to reflect Taiwan's sovereignty. So you got to give them credit for that. Additionally, there have been concerns about the app's collection of data from minors, including their location and their browsing history, which could be used for targeted ads or attempting to sway and form public opinion on any number of sensitive and high-octane issues like race, gender, politics, sexuality, etc. All of these concerns, if you wear the ban TikTok hat, are strong reasons why we cannot allow the Chinese government near our youth. Now, here we sit. 4 reasons to not ban TikTok. 4 reasons to ban TikTok. And now that brings us to our lovely United States government and politicians in crafting a plan to actually get it done right. And as with most things, well, let's tear apart their solution to see if it actually does what they say that it was supposed to do, the banning of TikTok. As this is what they are telling everyone in the media. Oh, it's a national security risk. We have to ban it. We have to ban it. We have to ban it. As a precursor, I have to admit something to all of you. I naively was incredibly surprised as the chorus of ban TikTok grew louder and louder from both the Democrats and Republicans in a very bipartisan manner, that they were agreeing on this ban. My initial thought, my naive thought, and I can't believe I still have it, but I literally thought, wow, these two parties are actually trying to work together for once for the common good of the country. That's amazing. They're working for the country and the people instead of for their political party. Isn't that awesome? Sadly, that was a lie. After reading and educating myself through parts of this bill, and thanks very much to my software engineer son who turned me on to what the heck was actually in this bill. And he sent me some documents and articles that really allowed me to understand the legislation on the table. And I hope you will pay very, very close attention to this, because if it happened here in the United States legislation, my guess is, my inkling is, if Canada or Europe or Africa or other countries in Asia attempt to ban TikTok, we're probably almost certainly going to try and use similar language. But here's what's going on. I had to change my tune a bit. And one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, and now I say, silly me. Silly me. That I believe that they were actually working on something for the common good. This legislation, like nearly every single big government piece of garbage legislation that they put out, has literally almost nothing to do with TikTok and actually doesn't even mention the company TikTok by name in the entire legislation. But let's go through this. Rather than me just spouting off on it, some of the parts of what's known as the Restrict Act. So restrict is an acronym for restricting the emergence of security threats that risk information and communications technology. Restrict. That's a mouthful. It's currently in Senate procedures. It's widely thought to be targeting China's TikTok in particular. Oh, and it is bipartisan sponsored. So if you're a Democrat or a Republican, yeah, both your parties are on this bill. As I already mentioned, the Restrict Act is not specifically targeting TikTok or any other individual company or technology product by name. Rather, this bill is seeking to address the broader issue of foreign adversaries using certain information and communication technologies to threaten U.S. national security. However, TikTok has been the subject of scrutiny in the United States over concerns about the app's data privacy and their security practices, and some U.S. government officials and lawmakers have been expressing and focusing solely on TikTok in the media and its Chinese ownership, and it could allow the Chinese government to access user data and potentially use it for espionage or other nefarious purposes. So the bill itself doesn't even mention TikTok, but in the media, on the cover news, it's all about TikTok in China. It is possible that the Restrict Act, if passed into law, could have implications for TikTok, obviously, as well as other Chinese-owned technology companies, obviously. I mean, TikTok fits the bill as probably a primary target. However, this is the big thing. The bill's focus is on establishing a process for identifying and responding to threats posed by foreign adversaries, rather than just targeting any individual company or technology. Oh, but don't worry. The bill is as broad and wide as the Atlantic Ocean. So the Restrict Act gives the government authority, and here's literally inside the bill, and you can read it, gives the government authority over all, yes, all forms of communication, domestic or abroad, and grants powers to, quote, enforce any mitigation measures to address any risk to national security now and in any future potential transaction. It sounds like, well, they can pretty much go after anybody at any time under the digital sun. Pretty much what we're talking about. But wait, there's more. Big government overreach in this bill that makes the surveillance state created after 9/11 with the Patriot Act look like child's play. Always be wary when Congress comes up with names like Patriot Act, because how could anyone ever oppose the Patriot Act except someone who isn't a patriot anyway, so they don't even matter. Well, the Restrict Act, to save us or restrict the dastardly Chinese or Russians or any evildoers from the dangerous online. The dangers of online even goes so far as to say that it has the power of, and I'm quoting this exactly. And by the way, in the show notes, I've put a hyperlink. You can read this bill, and you can read that I'm not just making up this language. This dystopian future language of control is literally in the bill. But here's the quote. Quote, imposing and enforcing any mitigation measures to address any risk arising from any covered transaction by any person or with respect to any property subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. 5 times in 30 words, they use the word any. any mitigation, any risk, any transaction, any person, any property. Wow. Could you get any more vague than this? Could you give the government any more broad power across the digital landscape of people who are trying to express and talk and create? Jeez. The text of the act singles out several usual suspects as foreign adversaries, such as Russia and China and Iran, etc. But the Director of National Intelligence and the Secretary of Commerce are free to add any new, quote, foreign adversaries to the list whenever they feel like it, while conveniently not under any obligation to let Congress know about it. Basically, they can keep it all in the dark shadows, away from the public's eye, which seems to be the way our democracy plays itself out in America anymore. And under these dastardly Republicans and Democrats who craft these bills intentionally for this. You cannot tell me this was an accident, this happened this way. And when this designation is in place, then the threat of, quote, any action deemed necessary to mitigate the national threat kicks in, which could result in people being ordered to, 1, pay $1 million fine, 2, spend 20 years in prison, or 3, lose all assets. And these forms of punishment would be meted out without due process, kind of like the courts of the Patriot Act and these special courts. There appears to be no limits put on the funding and the hiring to enforce this act. And the Freedom of Information Act does not apply. Let me say that again. The Freedom of Information Act does not apply. A perfect big government kicker that allows these agencies involved to hire and hire and hire without recourse. All of this just to ban TikTok? Really? Seems a bit extreme. Well, to me, and you can decide for yourself, but I would say, hell yeah, this is government overreach at extreme levels. Either way, at the moment, the White House is highly in favor of passing the Restrict Act. And it seems the Democrats and the Republicans in Congress and Congress are also in agreement, or at least so far. Although as people are understanding and more understanding this thing, this monstrosity more and more, this almost Orwellian government control, this dystopian overreach, politicians are starting to hear from people, and maybe it's time you reach out to your congressman as well if you're in the United States, or if you're in Canada, or if you're in Europe. If they try something similar, you better break that bill apart and you better read it. At least in the U.S., a few of them, at least a little bit, are starting to walk back their support. Now, at this point, we don't know if this particular act would be the one used to get rid of TikTok or not. I mean, it could. But I think the key thing to see here with this, I believe about 700 and some pages long of this document, is the problem of government writing a bill to quote unquote protect the people with a quote unquote National Security Act that just eats up pretty much every single inch of digital real estate that we have, and not only could take out TikTok, but could deem pretty much anything, anyone at any time as the enemy of the state. And the hammer could fall on them or you or me. I mean, this is about as sweeping of a power grab that we have seen. And this seems to be the reason why the Democrats and Republicans seem to be playing huggy, kissy, kissy together on this. Power, lots and lots of power to control people and literally the entire digital landscape. We need to be incredibly careful. But to bring us back to our initial inquiry when we started, should TikTok be banned? You now have the pros and you have the cons that you can deploy choice bracketing to make your decisions. In addition, you can see that just because you can get Congress to agree on a concept, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that the actual legislation on the table that comes out from this swampy cesspool of special interests with their egos and their political party maneuverings and their power grabbing is going to lead to a document that is actually good for the American people and actually protect us from foreign threats to our safety. I mean, anymore, just because a politician says something, well, I'd trust it about as much as I could throw the politician who said it. And many of those fat cat politicians, I probably couldn't throw them very far. So this thing, banning TikTok is complex. It's incredibly complex. And we should all pay very, very close attention. If the Restrict Act, especially if it goes into law, and will be the vehicle used to ban TikTok, because as I mentioned early in this podcast with decision bracketing, one decision that we make can impact hundreds of things down the road. And I guess my hope is if they ban TikTok, which maybe isn't a bad thing in many ways, something new, a new law, something new and specific that only does what it's intended to do comes into law. But expecting that from Washington, D.C. right now, it seems like expecting snow in Florida in July. Or if I had to bet money, I would bet from all the hearings and all the blustering fury, nothing happens. A big nothing. But hot, blustery air. As pretty soon, they will all be turning the majority of their time to re-elections and raising money and keeping their cushy jobs. But no matter what, we the people, we need to be tuned in and alert. Because really the issue of banning TikTok is something that's much bigger than TikTok. And we have to pay attention to every angle. So I hope you enjoyed our discussion today and blowing this issue up to some pros and some cons and then the legislation that's on the table. I hope this gives you a whole lot of things to think about. Lots of times in our traditional media, they just attempt to cover this ban in a 2-minute short story loaded with binary sound bites. But the issue is big and it's grand and it's complex. And I hope this gives you many things to think about. In the end, do you think TikTok should be banned? Do you think the Restrict Act is a good law? I'd love to hear your opinion. You can post it on the podcast Substack page, which, by the way, you can find in the hyperlink in the show notes. Give me your opinion in the comments section of the podcast. Or, hey, contact me directly via email. If you go to the Substack page, you can subscribe for free. I'll even post my opinion over there if you want to see it. But in this podcast, it really isn't about my opinion, although I probably give away some of my thoughts with my tone. I do get carried away too much with that, but really it's about dissecting issues and you arriving at opinions in a more wise and a more intellectual manner. But if you do want to know, just go to the show notes, go to the Substack page. You can read my personal opinions in more detail over there. And you can subscribe for free and you can interact with others about the show. Or if you prefer, I've been getting a lot more emails. You can even email me directly with questions, comments, concerns, like show ideas, because I do try to respond to everyone. With that, I appreciate all of you so much for listening in, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. And again, see you in the next episode. Take care.